Okay, now I'm here, chapter 10. I find this better to put this in increments, so here we're at chapter 10, so we keep this a little organized. Organization is the way of making life better, I believe. Okay, Virginia Hill pleads her innocence. Television viewers across America look on fascination as a gangster, Amal, testifies before U.S. committee investigating organized crime. The testimony is a welcome break for a nation that has been consumed by paranoia over communism and the atom bomb since the end of World War II, since 6 years ago. American troops are now waging war against the Red Menace in Korea. And a Wisconsin senator named Joseph McCarthy is alleging that the U.S. government is rife with communist sympathizers. So just as the nation did in 1930s, when celebrity gangsters allowed the public to temporarily forget the woes of the Great Depression, the campfire hearings now veil America's fears of nuclear obliteration. And no witness is more provocative than Virginia Hill. 4 years after the death of Bugsy Siegel, his mistress sits before the cameras in a cramped hearing room at the federal courthouse here in Foley Square. Now, 34 of the mother of newborn son Hill is afraid of lead counsel Rudolph Haley, a young attorney from Queens. In a 5,000 silver mink stole, silk gloves and black dress with a plunging neckline, she feigns complete ignorance while deflecting his questions with ease. The men that I was around that gave me things were not gangsters or racketeers. The only time I ever got anything from them was giving out or having fun, or maybe a few presents, she insists to the oath. At stake of her very freedom, investigators have concluded that Virginia Hill had never worked an honest day in her life, not paid much in her taxes, yet her net worth is estimated to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. The IRS investigators know that between 1942 and 1947, Hill spent more than $250,000 but showed earnings of just $16,000 per year. So unless Hill can explain where the money came from, she could face a prison sentence for tax evasion, as Al Capone did. I never knew anything about their business, Hill adds, speaking her to of her mafia friends. They didn't tell me about their business. Why would they tell me? I didn't care anything about their business in the first place. I don't even understand it. The reason I asked Kaylee Perez is that you seem to have a great ability to handle financial affairs. Why me? It seems impossible. The attorney continues that you did not know about Siegel's associates at the Flamingo. I never go out, Hill responds. In the first place, I had hay fever. I was allergic to cactus. Every time I went there, I was sick. Hill then adds that she spent most of her time in Las Vegas relaxing in her hotel room. Ben's friends, I never even met them or was around them. The courtroom was packed with senators, investigators, and reporters. These hearings, named for Senate Estes, Kofer, and the bookish woman, amazing, womanizing, and the bookish womanizing Tennessee legislator who leads the committee have become America's first national television phenomenon. Organized crime is no longer exclusively in big cities, but has inflated small towns to such an extent that a group known as the American Municipal Association has petitioned the federal government to investigate the Sorge. Ironically, J. Edgar Hoover of the FBI is opposed to the Senate proceedings. He has no need, claiming that organized crime is a myth. The director believes the independent racketeers are being mistaken for a national alliance of criminals. For this reason, he points that local police departments are responsible for prosecuting such crimes instead of the mafia. However, Hoover would prefer that America's Senate investigations focus on combating the rising communist threat. The Bureau's New York field office has 400 agents assigned to finding subversities, as communist sympathizers are known, but just 4 agents are assigned to organized crime. Similarly, Hoover keeps files containing detailed personal information about America's most influential individuals, but does not believe it necessary to authorize such investigations of mafia leaders. Joseph Nellis, assistant legal counsel for Crafer hearings, would later relate Hoover's disapproval of organized crime. We had a long series of meetings with him off the record, at which he told us we don't know anything about the mafia or the families in New York. We haven't followed this. He told us what we were learning about the mafia wasn't true. Unable to rely on Hoover for assistance, Kiefer Committee instead turns to the director's rival, Harry Anslinger of Federal Bureau of Narcotics, for insight into the criminal underworld. Yet when the two key mafia witnesses are found murdered on the eve of giving testimony, Senator Kiefer reaches out to Hoover once more, desperately asking the FBI to provide security for future witnesses. I regret to advise that the Federal Bureau of Investigation is not empowered to perform guard duties. Hoover responds icily, further distancing himself from the landmark proceedings. Yet within the FBI, there are some who question Hoover's true motives. Some find it as odd the man who pursued criminals with relentless ferocity, building the FBI's reputation by arresting and killing America's most notorious gangster, now refused to play even a small role in this very public investigation of organized crime. A handful of agents that the mafia actually controls. J. Edgar Hoover, when he takes the train north for the weekend in New York, the director regularly the South frequents the Stork Club, a mafia haven in Miami. Hoover prefers a seafood restaurant named Meyer Lansky and Frank Costello, favored by Meyer Lansky and Frank Costello. The plot thickens. Anyway, and then we go. It is whispered by a few agents that Lansky and other underworld leaders have photographs of Hoover in compromising situations with Clyde Tolson, a top man of the FBI who has been the director's constant companion for almost 20 years. These two are so close that they are allegedly have been serendipitously holding hands when they believe no one is looking. It is customary for Hoover's limousine to pick up Tolson at his apartment each morning, so the two men can ride to work together. A lifelong the lifelong bachelor also vacation with each other and eat dinner 5 nights a week. All the while, Hoover is prosecuting homosexuals on moral charges, as well as keeping those secret personal files of the lives of the most powerful politicians and even presidents, among them Senator Kiefer, the man from Tennessee known for his heavy drinking, eager acceptance of bribes, and a habit of using House and Senate committee furniture as spontaneous sex locations. FBI agents know that J. Edgar Hoover stereotypically meets with Frank Costello in Central Park during the visits to Manhattan. The suspects of the conversations are unknown, but it is common knowledge that Hoover has a fondness for gambling. On horse races, a bet in small dollar amounts. Sports betting is illegal in Washington, D.C., meaning that the nation's chief law enforcement officer breaks the law to fuel this passion. Some agents believe that the mafia uses the vice of the directors to keep him from investigating their activities. Hoover will never know how many races I had to fix for them lousy $10 bets, Costello will later admit. To be fair, J. Edgar Hoover's interactions with mafia figures are not all that unusual for law enforcement officials. Before his death, Bugsy Siegel secretly met with federal agents in Los Angeles to ensure details about the criminal activities of his enemies. But due to Hoover's denials about organized crime, the FBI field in LA is not allowed to take action. Instead, agents pass information about the mafia to local police, and unlike the FBI, the Los Angeles Department has no doubt that organized crime exists, so much that the LAPD has formed a small elite unit dedicated to destroying the city's mob element. The Gangster Squad, as it is called, was originally formed in 1946 as a response to criminals from back east coming west to shake down local restaurants. The owners of famous LA eateries like Macombo and Brown Derby were being forced to pay 25% of their income to those tourists or else. Carrying Tommy guns, smoking cigars, and prowling Los Angeles in old Ford automobiles with holes in the floorboards, squad members are physically powerful men who played sports and or fought in the World War II. Their specialty is cornering a suspected gangster and strongly suggesting he leave and never come back. The squad is effective, using wiretaps, break-ins, physical beatings to initiate the bad guys. Also, Officer Jack Mara, one of the 8 men chosen for this duty, remembers a typical tactic. We would have little heart to heart. Okay, and this is J. Edgar Hoover and Clive Tellson in 1939. I hope you can see that. But that's them. All right, we would have a little heart-to-heart talk with them. Empathize the fact that this wasn't New York, this wasn't Chicago, this wasn't Cleveland. And we learned on them a little. You know what I mean. Up in Hollywood Hills, off Coldwater Canyon, anywhere up there. And it's dark at night. Omara continued. We would kind of put a gun to their ear and say, "You want to sneeze? You want to feel a sneeze coming on? A loud sneeze?" Like the Los Angeles police, the American public is completely convinced that organized crime is real. But the public is entertained by the spectacle. The weeks of March 12, 1951 will occupy a special place in history. Reports a cover story in Life magazine. People have suddenly gone indoors into living rooms, taverns, club rooms, auditoriums, and back offices. There, in the eerie, half lighted, licking millions of small frosty screens, people sat as if charmed. No, never before had the tension of the nation been rivaled so completely on a single matter. Dishes stood in sinks, babies went unfed, business staggered, and department stores emptied while hearings were on. Public fascination with the covert workings of the mafia has never been more intense. Schools across the country are dismissing students from class to watch the television proceedings here in New York. Broadway shows are playing to near empty theaters, as they have been for decades. Americans are fascinated with the underworld, eager to make celebrities even heroes of men who steal and kill for a living. Now the movie newsreels that once highly criminal escapees are being replaced by live broadcasts on television. The hearings are so popular, Senator Kafer will win an Emmy Award for the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. He will also choose to run for president in 1952. It will be Kafer's defeat of President Harry Truman in the New Hampshire primary that convinces Truman to pull out of the race. But the hearings in his name are not a complete triumph for the senator. During the committee's stop in Chicago, he meets privately with mob lawyer Sidney Korshik. Rather than agree to offer testimony, Korshik presents the married 47-year-old Kashfer with photographs showing the senator at the Drake Hotel sharing a bed with two young women. From this moment on, even as he runs for president, Kaufner is a captive of the mob. Of course, Virginia Hill is not alone in offering testimony. For the past year, the Kaufner Committee has heard evidence in 14 cities, and this is Kershaw, and he is the attorney for I think this is a mob attorney we're looking at here. Right here. That's the attorney for the mob, trying to get them out of trouble. I'm sure he's very well qualified. Alright, he has heard evidence in 14 cities, and called more than 600 witnesses. In fact, the investigation was supposed to end in 1951, but the hearings were so popular that the American public inundated Congress with letters demanding that the televised programs continue. Thus, the addition of New York City as the final stop. Other gangsters subpoenaed subpoenaed Other gangsters subpoenaed to speak here at the federal courthouse. Oh, it's right here. Sorry. Include Frank Costello, who now runs Lucinio crime family. Despite Lucky Lucinio's permanent absence, the mother shows respect, not changing the family's name to his own. Now the public not only sees how stylishly a suspect Mafasio dresses and the precision which he combs his hair, but Americans also hear with an Italian accent and speaking voice, made rhapsody by a botched operation for polyps on his vocal cords. Costello adds to the theater by refusing to acknowledge the existence of La Costa Nostra. I am in no condition to testify, Costello tells Kafer at one point. You refuse to testify further? I am a defendant of this courtroom, Costello asks. Am I a defendant in this courtroom? Costello asks. No. Then I'm walking out, Costello replies, and then stands and leaves. However, hearings will prove damning to Costello. Eventually, he will be sent to prison for contempt of Congress. Things will go much worse for Willie Mauricio, a mob underboss who chooses not to take the fifth. Instead, Marashi, who believes he is not doing any harm, tells the Senate panel that certain made men socialized at a club named Duke's. At the time, it seemed innocuous, but 7 months later, he will be shot in the face and killed while eating lunch in New Jersey. As flamboyant as Costello was, it was Virginia Hill who becomes an immediate sensation. Her fiend, naive, fearless indifference to the maneuvering of the prosecutors, and an Alabama draw that Kiefer will describe as a mixture of Southern poor white and Chicago gangster gives Miss Hill a raw glamour that Americans find intriguing. She will only add to the spectacle when her testimony ends, covering her face as she pushes through the gauntlet of reporters and screaming questions. Get your fucking cameras out of my face. Get out of my fucking way, Hill commands. But Marjorie Farnsworth, the writer for the New York Journal America, does not listen. She blocks Hill's path, only to be smacked hard in the right to her face. New York Times reporter Mortimer also receives a kick in the chin from Hill that draws loud cheers from the crowd and spectators. I hope the fucking atom bomb falls on y'all, she yells on her shoulder for being driven away from the courthouse. As brazen as that behavior might be, particularly for a woman straining against the conventional gender mores of 1951, it is Virginia Hill's comments in a closed executive session that will truly append the investigation. Hill is being questioned by Senator Charles Tobey of New Hampshire, one of the committee's 5 members. Reporters are present, but there are no television cameras. Toby is fascinated by Hill's relationship with Joe Epstein and the other men who gave her so much money. Why would they do that? Asked Toby, trying to set a trap. Hill dodges the question. Toby tries again. Why would they give you all that money? The senator asked, speaking about Epstein. You really want to know? Asked Hill. Yes, I really want to know, Toby replies. The committee waits eagerly for Hill's response. They sense a triumph. Then I'll tell you why. Virginia Hill give a does not give quite the answer they expect. Because I'm the best damn cocksucker in town. 400 miles away from New York in Charlottesville, Virginia, an aspiring lawyer and his pregnant wife are fascinated by the mafia hearings. Bobby Kennedy is 24 years old, an idealistic Irish Catholic from Massachusetts, who trends to be conservative in his political and moral thinking. He stands 5 feet 9 inches and weighs 155 pounds, and has a reputation for ferocious tendency. Among his powerful friends is Senator Joseph McCarthy of Wisconsin, now growing famous by promoting a communist witch hunt. Kennedy rarely drinks and does not smoke, nor does Ethel, his bride of less than 1 year. The couple lives in a 3-bedroom home while he finishes law school at the University of Virginia. Both come from means, and Ethel laments that this place could fit into the living room of one of our guest house, but the Kennedys are content with their temporary circumstance. This house is usually the scene of chaos. Ethel does not cook and will not oh my god. Ethel does not cook and will not clean. So the kitchen and bedroom fall into stray on those days when a maid is not present. The family pet, an English bulldog named Toby Belch, is not trained, and those factors to the ridge of the finishing school while waiting the birth of the first child, and it can be said that this time Bobby Kennedy's life is a period of discombobulation. Kennedy agrees that the fight against organized crime should be the national crusade, a great debating from an arouser of public opinion on the state of the nation's morals, in the words of Senator Kafer. For Bobby, it is a Puritan belief in right and wrong, and has chosen to become a lawyer so that he may use the law to root out criminal activity. After passing the bar, he expects to begin working for the U.S. Department of Justice Criminal Division. However, with every passing revelation, the Kiefer Committee, Bobby Kennedy becomes more aware that his family name might be dragged through the mud. In fact, his father is mentioned in passing as being linked to an organized crime during the hearings, but no evidence is cited. The truth is that Bobby Kennedy's own lavish childhood was made possible by his father, who chose to dwell in the shadows between right and wrong. The Kiefer hearings may center around Italian American criminal activity, but the Irish Joseph Kennedy is a multimillionaire who wields just as much power as any mafia don in his lifetime. The Kennedy family patriarch will found RKO Pictures and serve as U.S. ambassador to Great Britain and worked as a chairman by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Kennedy has also has his learning disabled daughter lobotomized upon advice of a trusted physician and is deeply anti-Semitic and even admired politician. The politics of Adolf Hitler mobster Frank Costello will state for the record that he and Joseph Kennedy had a business relationship. Shipping bottle-legged whiskey during Prohibition, once a hit was called on Kennedy in Detroit, is allegedly Costello who intervened and saved his life. Despite the exploits of his high-profile father, Bobby Kennedy will choose a different path. Soon he will be the leader of the anti-mafia faction for the federal government and a vicious criminals that will hate him for it. And this is this is John F. Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy right here. There's a lot of stuff going on in this book. Alright, now my next load I'm actually getting out of the dryer. This next load I'm actually getting out of the dryer, so tomorrow I'm gonna try to get some more of this book done. And tomorrow I will be doing more, and thank you for listening, and thank you for all the people peeping in my stream. And I will still be doing this. If you want to subscribe to me, you can. If you don't want to, it's okay. I kind of like to do these projects to keep me busy and keep my mind focused. But I do appreciate everybody and their support. So tomorrow I will be doing more, and thank you.